Okay, if you could just state your name for me.
David Elliot.
How old are you, David?
I'm 68.
And where are you from?
Well, I live in Llanelli. I've been down here since 1989.
Are you homeless?
I'm not homeless at the moment, but my experience of homeless has been in terms of trying to help somebody who had been on the street for about 25 years, and suddenly he was offered the chance of a flat. And I helped him to try and adjust from being homeless to actually living in a flat. And it was quite an interesting experience because he had no idea, of course, how to go shopping or how to keep a flat tidy. For me, it inspired me to actually go and do a degree because I was working alongside the social worker that he had at the time. Yeah. And the social worker suggested to me that perhaps I should go and do a degree in social work.
So you're an advocate then, really?
Well, I am. I would call myself that. I mean, my personal experience of being homeless happened in 2014 when I went down to Cornwall for the funeral of my cousin. And I went in my 4x4, and I was intending to camp, and I did camp down there for a while, but then I travelled on to Bournemouth to visit his parents. And when I arrived, I couldn't stay with them, and I couldn't find anywhere to camp. So I ended up sleeping for about 3 or 4 weeks in the back of my 4x4. So that was my personal experience of being homeless, and I realised then how difficult it is, not to have a permanent home.
And looking around here this evening, some of the young people that are coming in here, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, some with mental health issues, some with drug problems, they are utterly desperate, aren't they?
The thing is that what can they do? Where can they go? Well, there are places, but, they're abandoned buildings, usually in a poor state of repair. I mean, it's a roof over their head, but it's not much more than that. And, of course, then they're very vulnerable because other people will be in the building as well at the same time. And can they trust them?
We did an article a couple of weeks ago, and we contacted the council to ask them how many homeless people they had in the county, basically, and their statistic was 0.
I mean, they won't admit to it, will they? Let's face it. They'll play it down, won't they? They're bound to, aren't they?
Listening to some of the stories here, it's plain to see that a lot of people's difficulties are that they just cannot cope with the bureaucracy, with the questioning, with the paper filling, form filling, with the questions and so on.
Absolutely.
There seems to be a great need for an advocacy service within Llanelli that deals primarily with these people, and there seems to be a need for a real crisis centre, a hostel that they can be housed immediately to take them away from this vulnerability and what we know are some of the pitfalls, drug and alcohol abuse.
I think you're absolutely right. I quite agree with you. And of course the problem is with people, if you try and set up something in a residential area, immediately
not in my
people,
backyard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think then that this problem is going to get worse in the next couple of years in Llanelli, or is it set to improve?
I mean, what is interesting to me is that you get people travelling from as far away as Cornwall and Scotland coming here. And of course, once they arrive, thinking they're going to have a better opportunity down here, they find much the same, I would imagine, down here as they do in where they've been previously. So it's this question of where can people get the help? Where can they find the people that are, as you say, that are going to be their advocate, are going to stand between them and the authorities?
We've heard from some people tonight that have found God and turned to religion, and Gary himself runs the soup kitchen here. It has a religious ethics behind it. Are the churches, are the chapels, are these people doing enough, given that they preach the gospel? It's
a very, very interesting question you're raising there. And I would say that there are some that are more ready to welcome the homeless and the if you like, the person that doesn't look like the average churchgoer into their congregation.
Yeah.
But there are others, of course, that would be put off by that. I mean, I was involved for a while in one church on a Friday night work where the church hall was open and teams went out particularly down the Station Road area and chatted to people and invited them back to to have coffee and cakes and a talk. Of course, the aim being really to share the gospel with them, because as far as many Christians in Llanelli are concerned, they believe the gospel is the way forward for homeless people, and that only God can really help them, through Jesus Christ. So that's the Christian perspective, really.
That obviously is without question. I would think most reasonably, sane people, believers or not, would say, well, the church has a part to play here. It sets a moral example, we're told. We know, if we look into the Gospels, Jesus broke bread and went into the places with the thieves, with the prostitutes and so on.
Absolutely.
Judge lest he be judged, and all of these kind of things. But yet we still see here in Llanelli an abundance of wealth, an abundance of money, millions of pounds being spent on a wellness centre. And we have this almost a subculture within our town that seems to be existing below the radar of even acknowledging they exist. When you say you have a statistics of 0, that really is a denial that those people exist.
Absolutely. As you say, it's an underclass. I mean, the interesting thing to say about the Christian faith is that Jesus was a homeless person, because the scripture said the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head, and he relied on the hospitality of others, those of his disciples and families of the disciples, and he had no home of his own. So he can fully identify with the homeless person today.
Do you think that this is a case of, if we were in the big city, if we were in London, it's in your face, there is so much there being done about it, but here, because of the rurality, the location, they really can be invisible?
Well, it's very interesting, because I was only reading a copy of The Big Issue the other day, and the person writing that story was saying, have we got to the stage where we just accept that these people are homeless and that is the way they want to live, and we can't do anything about it? In other words, is it a lifestyle choice? And of course that's ridiculous, because it isn't, as the writer went on to say in the article. But that can be the view, they like living like that, that's the lifestyle they've chosen to live, which of course is a complete misreading of the situation that homeless people find themselves in.
We've not really found any distinctive answers here this evening. We've heard testaments from a lot of people, each of them very different, very different histories, very different backgrounds. But the overall message that seems to come through from listening to these people is the utter desperation, and there is a desperate need for an advocacy service, and an emergency shelter, and somewhere like the soup kitchen, from what they all say, is absolutely invaluable to their lives. Something as simple as a bowl of soup.
Absolutely. I mean, that's all we're doing really on a Sunday evening here. We're saying, come along, sit down, have a chat, have something to eat, have a hot drink, and let's hear your story.
Thanks for speaking to me.
You're welcome. Thank you.